In this video, we look at some stylish, minimalist style watches under $1,000. All right, guys, so I wanted to make this video partially because I get so many questions about minimalist style watches, and with just the current trends with the many fashion brands that are now producing watches that have kind of clean designs, simple designs, not overcrowded in any way, maybe aren't producing the best value for money. I wanted to just offer up some alternatives from a kind of a watch lover's point of view that I think can fill that fashion-forward void while producing a better return on your investment. And they're all going to be under $1,000 here, so I think we'll fall in that range where a lot of fashion watches will fall. And let's start off our list. And for the first two watches here, I don't want to do a deep dive into the watches because I feel like I mention them so frequently, I don't want to sound like a broken record. The one watch is the Orient Bambino, the other is the Timex Marlin. Both great options if you are new to this overall watch world. Two great places to look for more affordable options, both of these coming in pretty much around $200 or less for all the different variations. From the Orient Bambino family, there's so many different ones to choose from. I think the Generation 2 version 3 is probably the most simple dial layout if you want something like that. You can also go for their version 4, which is also a very simple dial layout as well, but a lot of different versions to choose from. Also, same can be said for the Timex Marlin, reissued in 2017 by Timex, a 1960s bestseller from the brand. They started with the mechanical option, 34 millimeter case. They have different dial colors now that you can choose from in different variants that were not there when they originally launched it. So certainly a lot to look at, and you can also look at their automatic variants that have that more probably modern case size with that 40 millimeters that you can choose from. I'm not gonna do a deep dive into these, but great options if you do wanna take a look, and I wanna kind of spotlight some pieces that I think aren't mentioned as frequently as these. All right, so this first watch isn't really an underground pick, but I think is honestly one of the best value for money watches because I do see it going up and down in price depending on when you're looking for this watch. I've seen it as low as $200 on Tissot's website, and the watch is the Tissot Everytime Swissmatic. So these watches come in with a price of $200 to $400, case size of 40 millimeters, thickness is 11.6 millimeters, powered by an automatic C15111 movement, water resistance of 30 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. Now, if I had to think of my favorite Swiss entry-level, say minimalist style dress watch or just watch in general, I think this watch is one of the first that comes to mind. Very competitive price range where I see a lot of fashion-oriented brands positioning their watches, and I think you're just getting a lot more value for money from a brand like Tissot. Swiss-made watches, really reliable movement in this thing, and just a really clean overall design. So now next up we have two Bauhaus-style watches. One of the brands has been around for a little bit longer, and the other one's a kind of a new up-and-coming brand that I've been hearing a lot more of as of late. And I get a lot of questions about just Bauhaus-inspired watches, considering I wear a lot of Junghans and Nomos watches, and I have that make up a good amount of my collection. So let's start with the first brand, and that brand is Junkers with their 6056 5 Series. So this watch comes in with a price range of $400 to $500. Just as a side note, you can find a quartz variant of this watch for about half of the price. Case size of 40 millimeters, thickness of 11 millimeters, powered by an automatic ETA 28242, water resistance of 30 meters, and has a Hezolite crystal. Now this next brand is one that has caught my eye a little bit more as of late. They're based in Germany, Hamburg, Germany, and are a micro brand that has fastly been emerging, and that is Sternglass. So I've mentioned this brand in my series where I looked at micro brands. I will link to those in the description down below if you want to check it out. I looked at their Zirkel model. So these watches come in priced $300 to $350, case size of 40 millimeters, thickness of 10 millimeters, powered by an automatic Miyota 821A, water resistance of 50 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. However, I will say this, they also are announcing the release of an automatic version of probably my favorite design from what they have in their overall offering called the Nios from the brand. It's on Kickstarter right now. It looks like it's gonna be around the same specs. I think it has a 38 millimeter case compared to the Zirkel, but I think it has a simpler dial layout, and I think this is certainly a brand to watch. And I ran into somebody that owned one of their watches, and I mean, I was pretty impressed. I think they look really clean. They're really simple, but well done, and I think they stay true to that Bauhaus roots. In terms of what I would recommend for people that are looking for the style at the most affordable prices, I think this brand and then Junkers is probably where I would look. So now we have a very overlooked watch from Hamilton. We're gonna be looking at the Hamilton Valiant. So this watch comes in with a price of $400 to $595, case size of 40 millimeters, case thickness of 11 millimeters. Movement is the Hamilton caliber H10. That is an ETA-based movement, 80-hour power reserve, water resistance of 50 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. This watch here, I think, again, is just one that is incredibly overlooked. I mentioned it in my series where I looked at underrated watches from popular brands. So if you've never seen that series, I can link to it down below if you want to take a look at it. But I like just the overall Roman numeral style. I remember I ran into somebody that had one of these watches. I was like, wait, that's a Hamilton watch. But I think these can be found for pretty reasonable prices. And I think they match up pretty well for those that maybe don't want to go for the Intramatic or want something a little bit different than what the Jazzmaster line can offer up into something different, and I think does it really well. So I know I've already mentioned a couple times I want to be picking some maybe more unconventional picks, but Seiko here. When you think about Seiko in this range, there's a lot that come to mind. Minimalist style. You probably look at some of the SARBs. You can look at, of course, the cocktail times as great options, and certainly would recommend those. But what I'm going to look at here is a member of the SARX family. It's the SARX 021. So these watches come in priced between $400 and $500. Case size of 39.2 millimeters. Thickness is 12 millimeters. Movement is an automatic Seiko 6R15. Water resistance of 100 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. And overall, I really just like the SARX line a lot. I own a SARX 045. This watch is certainly different than that watch, as well as many of the other US market watches that you'll find from Seiko. And this was one that really just stood out. It has a very muted dial. It has that pie pan type effect as well. And I think does have some pretty good value for money with a lot of the SARB line and a lot of just Seiko watches in general that have the 6R15 movement going up in price. I think this one falls at a pretty good range in which I think can be really obtainable for people and is still very good value for money. All right, guys, if you liked the video so far, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Bell icon is a big way to help out the channel, so please do hit that if you have not already. All right, so now for this next brand, it's one that I am currently working on a review of their World Timer, which I've been really impressed with, but that's for another day. Instead, we're gonna be looking at the Frederique Constant Slimline Gents Auto. And the particular reference we're gonna be looking at is the FC71 0S4S6. So these watches have quite a wide range in terms of where you can find them. $800, $900 to around $2,795 at retail. Case size is 42 millimeters, thickness of 10 millimeters. Movement is an automatic FC710. That is an in-house movement from Frederique Constant. Water resistance of 30 meters and has a sapphire crystal. That movement comes with a 42-hour power reserve, very beautifully decorated. And I think the only negative thing I can say about Frederique Constant, I think they're providing pretty good value for money. Overall, really clean dial designs. This particular one coming with a subsidiary dial at the 6 o'clock, pointing at the date. But just the range in which you can find their watches, there's a lot of volatility in just the secondhand market from this brand. Probably the biggest rub that I have against them. So if you can't find it on the cheaper end, I think it's certainly a very good buy. So now we're gonna jump back on the Bauhaus train and look at the Stowa Antea back to Bauhaus. So these watches come in with a price range of $800 to $1,000. Case size of a few different options here. 35.5 millimeters, 36.5 millimeters, and a 39 millimeter option. Case thickness, 6.9 millimeters to 9.2 millimeters. That will depend on the movement that you choose for the watch and as well as the case size that you choose. You have hand winding capabilities as well as automatic variants that you could choose from. Water resistance, either 30 or 50 meters, and then has a sapphire crystal. Along with the many different options that you can choose from the internal specs of the watch as well as the case design, you can also choose different colors. You can go with a simple white, a black, all the way to brown, green, pink, and blue. Okay, now we have a personal favorite of mine with Junghans and looking at the Junghans Max Bill Automatic. So Junghans has been making wristwatches since 1927, and given the company's location, their design style, they have tied themselves rather closely to the Bauhaus School of Design and their principles. In the mid-20th century, they collaborated with designer and Bauhaus School design graduate Max Bill and worked on different wall clocks throughout the 1950s, and then followed up in 1962 with designing wristwatches. And of that design that Max Bill created are basically the direct tying to what you have here with the Max Bill Automatic. Probably the flagship watch from the brand nowadays, and it's just a beautiful watch. When you're looking at the price, $995, case size of 38 millimeters, thickness of 10 millimeters, powered by an automatic J8001, that's an ETA 28242 base, water resistance of 30 meters, and has a plexiglass crystal. So I have a Junghans Max Bill chronoscope. Absolutely love the thing. It was probably the first watch that kind of got me into this downfall into watch addiction, because I'm like, oh boy, I spent $1,000 over a watch. There's no turning back now. Also coupled two important other mentions from this brand. Their Meister Classic, very clean looking watch, as well as their Form A and their Form series. Two other really good minimalist style watches from the brand. Okay, so now we have a watch that I've always liked the look of. I don't hear much mention of it at all, and that is the Longines Presence. And this entire lineup has some very interesting models that you can choose from. I want to look at the reference, the L4921122. So these watches go in between prices around $800 to around $1,300. Case size of 38.5 millimeters, powered by an automatic L619888. That is an ETA 2892A2 base. Water resistance of 30 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. So this particular model comes with a gold PVD finish. Looks very elegant, very simple dial. I mean, very simple. But you can also go for an all steel variant. My favorite reference, the L492141122. I've mentioned it before in some of my videos. Longines overall, I think, puts a lot of focus on their heritage model. I think that was just a refocus and shift from the brand, because those were just the watches that were selling. And I think at a certain time, this was a brand that was competing directly with Rolex and Omega, and really kind of punching at the same weight as them back in the mid 20th century. But this is a watch I think is lost in the shuffle with a lot of the other watches from Longines, and I'm a big fan of them. And now for our last watch on the list, we have the Rado Coupole Classic. So we're looking at the reference, the R2286025. And this watch comes with a price range of $795 to $1,200, case size of 38 millimeters, thickness is 10 millimeters, powered by an automatic ETA C07611, water resistance of 50 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. One thing to know before we go any further is there are a lot of different dial colors that you can choose from. This particular model coming in with leaf style hands, a textured blue dial, and just a very clean looking watch with, honestly, simplicity done right. And also a big thank you to you for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Also, you can go and check out the link in the description of Bob's Watches, a partner of the channel, one of the largest online retailers for watches in the world. And if you use that link to purchase anything, that also supports the content you're watching, as well as if you go over to our website and buy a watch strap to sport with maybe your new watch that you're buying after watching this video. And maybe you want to get a little bit of love back, fill out the watch giveaway form, and then follow me on Instagram if you want to join our watch giveaway. And guys, thank you again so much for watching. Always appreciate it, really do. And I will see you all very soon.